There's one more mystery to resolve about this puzzle, and that's how a young man from New York City could conceive of a puzzle masterpiece about a town that he only briefly visited. Believe it or not, I think I've stumbled upon what inspired him, and it may have been the spark that inspired the entire book. Byron buried all 12 casks in 1981. On January 11th of that year, the New York Times published a lengthy article written by Rob Oglesby of the Gainesville Sun entitled St. Augustine Retains Spanish Colonial Style. Let's consider what that article said. The overarching theme of the article is how delightful it is to stroll around St. Augustine's historic Spanish colonial sites. If Byron had any inkling that he wanted to make a treasure hunt-themed book, the article's clear focus on Spanish immigration could have planted the seed about immigration-themed puzzles. The article emphasizes the beauty and historical importance of the mission grounds, and it explicitly mentions the chapel that plays a prominent role in the puzzle. The Castillo de San Marcos and the material it's constructed from, coquina, are both mentioned many times throughout the article. While discussing the view from the top of the Castillo, the rivers bounding the historic and downtown areas are explicitly named. Using those rivers as the bounds for the Digtree map would be a natural choice for someone who had read this article. Although there are no shrimp trawlers in this picture, the article mentions seeing shrimp trawlers from the top of the Castillo, so Byron would have been paying attention to shrimp trawlers and would have been well aware of their loud honking. The article gives considerable attention to safely crossing the street by the Castillo. This focus may have inspired the years past clue associated with crossing this street, which separates the oldest historic sites from the downtown area. The article focuses on a walk down Cuna Street to St. George Street, where historic Spanish homes are clustered. It mentions 7 historic homes in that area and describes several in some detail. This focus would have underscored for Byron that this area was an appropriate destination for a puzzle about Spanish immigration. When the article eventually discusses interesting nearby sites, it clarifies that many are not representative of Spanish immigration. Despite their use of Moorish architectural themes, these sites represent a distinctly American post-colonial period. The article also mentioned that the majority of folks visiting St. Augustine also stopped at Disney World. That comment could have planted the seed that led to the hitchhiking Mickey Mouse clue. The remarkable overlap of this article with the solution I presented provides considerable evidence both that this article inspired the puzzle and that this solution is correct. I didn't find the article until after I had formulated the solution, so the solution wasn't contrived to match the article. Let's briefly consider how Byron could have been inspired to add puzzle details that the article didn't mention. Before he traveled, Byron would have gotten a high-quality paper map of St. Augustine from a road atlas or a travel agent. Glancing at the map, he surely would have noticed that the Fountain of Youth Park was beside the mission. Extending the puzzle to include that park and Ponce de Leon's early exploration of Florida would have been a no-brainer. Doing library research on Ponce de Leon and conquistadors, Byron would have learned about the use of Spanish war dogs and other unsavory aspects of Spanish colonialism. He'd have learned about the Timucuan village of Saloy when he visited the Fountain of Youth Park. Again using a map, he'd have considered Water Street to be the obvious way to walk from the mission to the Castillo. He'd have considered the fact that the Father Lopez statue pointed directly at the end of Water Street to be a gift to a puzzle maker that was so obvious that he had to obscure it a bit. As he pondered how to lead us from Water Street to Cuna Street, the alignment of the southwest corner of the Castillo would have become evident. Maybe he noticed this alignment studying his map, or maybe he saw it as he approached the Castillo on Water Street. When he got to Cuna Street, he would have discovered the zero milestone. Its plaque contains enough information to produce the related clues. The remaining clues down Cuna Street, including the Digtree, would have been self-evident. We can't be sure that that's exactly what happened in 1981, but it's a credible accounting for the entire scope of the puzzle.